All right, let's grab our next guest. We've got a theist from South Carolina, and then possibly a theist from California.
Nice.
So let's pull up Mike from South Carolina. Mike says, if there were not any natural disasters, what should you next have issues with God? Is living a long, healthy life the meaning of life? I would say like there's a lot of like when I say issues with God, natural disasters are just one of them. I think it depends on which God you're talking about, though, right? Like if we're talking about the Christian God, I've got like a lot of bones to pick with the Christian God. I would say really even like the God of Islam too. This idea that anything would want to create hell and then send people there, to me, is nonsensical. As a father myself, I can tell you there's not a single thing ever that my child could do that would want me to suffer, have them suffer, even for 5 seconds in flame. So the idea that like God, the loving Father, would send people to hell for eternity is completely nonsensical. But Ian might have something after natural disasters.
Yeah, those are all great. This isn't like too much of a far cry from that, but I would probably do either like another natural evil, like the fact that our DNA mutates and causes cancer. God could have given us like the naked mole rat cells that essentially don't get cancer. Like they almost never get cancer compared to our cells where tons of people get cancer throughout their life. Tons of people get taken by cancer. I don't know, like the fact that God gave us the cancer cells versus the no cancer cells is extremely surprising on the hypothesis that he's good and just. But even like taking it away from like natural stuff, I think the regular problem of evil works fine. You like literally just the fact that the Holocaust happened. I don't think that I don't think Hitler's free will is worth the lives of 6 million Jewish people. I don't know, literally stop and ask yourself which one is more valuable, one dude's free will or 6 million Jewish lives. To me, that answer is like pretty easy. But the theist is forced to give the crazy answer.
So we gave you a whole lot right out of the gate there, Mike. What are your thoughts?
Oh, hey, yeah, thank you, and nice talking to both of you. First time talking to Ian. You're an interesting cat there. You're so calm. I thought Justin was calm. You're calm, and I'm. My hope is that I don't get smoked by Justin or folded by Ian. And I don't know which term is cooler. Real quick, which one is cooler?
Yeah, well, you'll get to experience both, and then you can tell us.
Hope not. All right, here we go. Yeah, so it's like, you got natural disasters, and God gets blamed for it, and it's like, okay, what would it take, man, instead of the Haiti 200,000 people dying, if only 2,000 died, or only 2, or does it have to be 0? I mean, what's it going to take to make you all happy? I'm just curious.
So I guess when we approach like the being all good, what being all good to me means is that you do the best thing that you know to do and are able to do, which means that we would just expect God to do the best thing because he's able to do anything and he knows exactly what the best thing is. So I think the best thing is 0 deaths. So I would just expect 0 deaths.
Right. I mean, my understanding of the all good is that it must all be good, right? You can't have even one bad thing.
Okay. And if I could step back for a moment, you all are looking at this from, I want to have a great life, a long life, fun life, forever life. And God's looking at this as, Justin, you would know this, I don't know what your training is, Ian, but he's looking at Earth as, this is a testing ground. We are being tested. It's not fun, but we are, on whether we want to choose to follow God or just choose what we want to do. So God's point of view
why
is,
does an all-knowing being need to test anyone?
Because he doesn't know what your free will is going to be. He can jump ahead in the future and see what your choices are, and it looks like they branch. But he wants to put it to the test and let you choose. So
are you an open theist?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Are you an open theist?
I don't know what that means.
Do you think like God only exists in the present moment? Do you think God is in
No, I think
time, I
he's
guess?
yeah, I think he's outside of time, if we can even understand that. Outside
And
of time, so he can see
then
it
why does he only
at the
see
beginning and the end.
possibilities? If
Now,
God's outside of time, then presumably he can just see the full story, right? Like imagine a person looking down at like a gosh, what is it? Like a video timeline on like a video editor. Presumably, like being outside of time might be something kind of equivalent to that. So he can just scrub ahead and see what's going to happen. Or I guess in like maybe like a more direct way, if God's all knowing and he's outside of time, then he should just know exactly what's going to happen.
yeah, the Bible says he does too. You're a Christian, Mike?
The Christian of the Bible, yeah, not Allah or anything. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible, I think, says contradictory statements about God's knowingness, but 1 John 3:20 does suggest that he knows all things. It says, if our hearts condemn us, we know that God is greater than our hearts and he knows everything. It seems to coincide with this idea that God would be all-knowing.
Yeah, there's also the verse, and Justin would be able to tell you what it is, but the one about, God says the end from the beginning. It seems
Right,
like
yeah.
God knows exactly what's going to happen in the future.
Well, I think where the confusion hits is you've got God ahead of us outside of time, and then there's us, and then now we're in time, but he's not doing his all-powerful everything. He's letting us run around, do things. He cursed the world, which is why we get a lot of the earthquakes. He cursed it, and who knows what else. I mean, yeah, he could have made a perfect world, but he didn't. And so we're deciding which way we want to follow. And then when time is wrapped up, then it's going to be a perfect heaven. There won't be earthquakes. There won't be cancer. There's going to be all the things you guys want in heaven. But now it's our free will running around, and it's a cursed world. It's a mess. But it's not going to be like that. But you're looking at it from your life, and you're like,
but the point is,
I'm going to die.
But the point
I've
is,
got cancer.
all-knowing beings don't have to test anybody.
Yeah.
I think they do when it comes to free will, because he's pulled back his power to allow us to make decisions.
Well,
He's
God
all
doesn't care about your
powerful.
free will. Yeah.
No, that's everything. You can't have love. He wants a loving relationship. We have to choose it with free will.
Oh, no, that's not
point
true
of
at all.
everything right
Because
there.
if you don't choose him, he tortures you. That's coercion, not love.
Yeah. Also, you don't necessarily need like free will in like a classic sense to have love, right? Like your newborn baby loves you, even though we wouldn't really say that they like chose to love you.
No, I don't believe that. You have to choose to who you're going to marry. You have to. And babies love us, and moms love babies.
I don't think you have to. I know quite a few people that had arranged marriages.
But also, like, I don't know. I just don't think like I don't think babies. I think babies love because of like neurochemical reactions, right? I think like the love that a baby feels towards its parents is going to be necessitated by the neurochemicals that it feels via like spending lots of time, vice versa for the parents towards the baby. I'm skeptical of this notion that like the love a baby specifically feels is a choice. Like I grant that maybe adults choose to love each other, right? Like maybe that's your choice as an adult. I just don't think that that applies to babies. So in that regard, it seems like you can totally have like a loving relationship that doesn't involve free will. Also, I'd say, I don't know, I'm skeptical that free will even exists on your worldview, especially if you think God is all-knowing.
Why is that?
Well, if God knows that some event is going to happen, then it's inevitable. And if it's inevitable, then it's not possible that it doesn't happen. And if it's not possible that it doesn't happen, then there isn't a choice.
Oh, that's a nice hypothetical. I could say the sun's going to rise tomorrow, but I'm not affecting it. And God's trying to step back absolutely as much as he can and let us choose without him hanging over our shoulder. That's the point of creating this little bubble universe we're in.
But do you think God sees the future?
I think he can. I mean, it says he's, there's got revelation, which is interesting, and he sees what's going to happen at the end. But all along the way, we're all making these choices. What is it? Justin, help me out. There's a comment in the Bible about if Sodom and Gomorrah had that guy, Jonah, preach, they would have repented. But
yeah, they would have repented long ago. Yeah.
Yeah. What was that?
Jesus said that
Help me.
when he was in Tyre and Sidon, I believe. But none of that's actually relevant here to what Ian's referring to.
Yeah. Do you think like
Okay,
God,
go ahead, Ian.
if God, does God know everything? He knows all the things that he can know, all the true things.
I think so, but again, he's pulled back, and we're doing free will, and it's like crazy. It's like there's a lot of stuff going on. Yes,
In
but
the
I believe
conversation,
so.
or
Yeah.
like overall, like in the worldview?
I think all the above. I mean, I'd like to go to a Bible verse and quote something for you, but I believe so. Yes. Help me, Justin. Is that true?
Well, I was hoping you were just going to answer Ian's question without like ducking and dodging. I thought it was an easy question.
Help me, Justin.
I
You're
don't mean
my
to duck
only
and dodge.
hope.
I'm going to say yeah.
May Fourth shout out.
I'd like to have a biblical reason. I mean, I can tell you what I think, and what I think doesn't matter. It matters if I can back it up with something in the Bible. But I'm going to say, yeah, that sounds right.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what's actually happening here, because I think Ian and I are trying to corral you into the conversation, and I don't know if you're participating in the same conversation. We're still talking about like a sideways address of the Epicurean paradox. If God is all knowing, he's all good, and he's all powerful. First of all, he doesn't have to test anybody. He knows what the result of the test is going to be from the outset. Boom. Not a problem. Number two is even if he did,
I don't agree with that.
Well, then he's not all knowing. You have to read. So then you don't think that God is all knowing, do you?
I think the outcomes are up to us.
Right, but does God know the outcome?
I think he can see possible outcomes, but until we do it, it's
right. But that doesn't answer my question. My question:
God's knowledge changes with time. So then God's in time.
No, I think he's in time and out of time. That I can't back up with the Bible, but
well, then we have an even bigger problem. That's a contradiction.
Go.
Yeah. So let's clarify. What you're saying is God does not know all things.
I think he's. I mean, I think he's pulling back and he's allowing us to make decisions, and I think they're branching out. And I wish I could back that up.
I'm not asking you about our free will. I'm just asking you about God's knowledge. I think you're trying to have a different conversation than what we're having. I'm just talking about God's knowledge. Okay. Does God have knowledge of all things? If I choose to eat breakfast tomorrow morning, does he know what I'm going to eat before I eat it?
I don't know, because you got free will there. I'm going to say, yeah.
Then he's not all knowing. If he doesn't know what decision I'm going to make, then he's not all knowing. He's just like mostly knowing.
I also think that we can just drive a contradiction here.
I don't know if he knows it until after you make it, and then he jumps ahead in time and sees it. I don't know how that works. I don't. It's a mind bender.
Would you agree that something that's outside of time doesn't have like future or past states?
Something outside does not have a future or past. Something outside of time does not have a future or a past. If you're outside of time, I don't know if the rules apply. It's like dividing by zero. I don't know.
So presumably, if God had a past, present, and future state, then he would just be in time, because that's what it means to be in time, is that you have a past, present, and future state. There's like some sort of like progression of your existence in accordance with time. So presumably, if God is outside of time, he doesn't have this like past or future state. Would you agree with that?
Well, here's one for you. Sometimes there isn't time, like a photon that travels from the sun to the earth that takes 8 minutes. But according to that photon, nothing is past. It was at the sun, and then it's at our planet. It's here. And
that's a great example.
Like I don't understand.
That's a great example about why your God actually can't exist in time, is because of a phenomena called time dilation. Simultaneously would be two separate moments for God if he exists everywhere. Something traveling close to the speed of light experiences less time, which means that when it's like 12 o'clock one place, it might be 11:30 at a different place, depending on like the inertial reference frame. So just on that basis, it doesn't seem like God can exist and know the things that are happening in the present, because the present is going to encompass a multitude of different times. It's going to be a multitude of different times at the present. So it just doesn't seem like it makes much sense to say that God knows the present stuff.
Okay, two things. One is the photon that's traveling the speed of light doesn't experience time dilation, time stops. That's interesting. The other one is, you ever see those
time dilation
examples where they have a two-dimensional world and everything is on a flat plane and a three-dimensional being comes in and appears on a wall, and then it comes in and it looks like it's appearing here, appearing there. And that's what it's like. Time is like a line, and God's able to come down because he's extra dimensional, I guess. Don't know, not in the Bible, but he's able to see the beginning, the middle, the end, whatever he wants to do. Maybe he can do it all at the same time while we're making all these free will decisions.
If he could do all that, then he would be all knowing.
Depending on our free will decisions.
We're not saying that like we're not making decisions, although we can make a case for that. All we're trying to figure out is if God knows all things. Does he know what I'm going to decide? And if he's outside of time, then presumably he already knows what I'm going to do before I do it.
I don't know. I don't know if you have to wait till after you do it till he knows. It's kind of like the photons. If you see their position, you don't know their direction.
Okay,
it could be one of those. What is that? The Schrodinger cat, all that fun stuff.
Okay, so we'll just assume for now that God is not all knowing. Boom, one omni property down. 1 John 3:20 is wrong. Let's talk about whether or not God is all good. The other omni property that I think people talk about a lot more. Natural disasters aside, your particular God, the thing I would say I detest about him currently at this moment in time is the fact that he is a huge misogynist. And I think that's very clear in the text. And so maybe my favorite example of this is the way that he punishes David for what he did with Bathsheba. Do you remember that story?
Bathsheba and David, is that when he saw her up on the other roof and then decided to take her as his wife? Well, yes, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so if you go to 2 Samuel chapter 12, David receives a punishment for taking the wife of Uriah the Hittite and then impregnating her and then sending Uriah to the front line to get murdered so that he can cover up this illegitimate birth, right? Now, the prophet Nathan is going to bring two different punishments for this. The first punishment falls on the child. The child is made ill for 7 days and then the child dies, even though the child didn't do anything wrong. David was the one that should have died for his sin, because in Deuteronomy 22, the punishment for adultery is getting stoned. So David should have been stoned. Rather than him getting stoned, the child got killed. The other punishment starts in verse 11, and it says, I will raise up trouble against you from within your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he will lie with your wives in broad daylight. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel in broad daylight. And so God has 10 of David's wives later in the story graped by somebody from within his own household as punishment for David's sin. So a God that is willing to have somebody's wives graped for the sins of their husband, to me, is not a God that gets to claim to be all good.
So you're saying if God punishes people, then he's not all good, or at least in that case.
Well, in this way, if he punishes them in that way.
He's punishing the women for the crimes that their husband committed.
Yeah, I mean, this is really really harsh. And then innocent baby, and then the wives, assuming they're innocent as well. Maybe they, I'm assuming they were. So
would you be okay if your wife got punished in this manner for your sin?
No, that's pretty severe punishment, and it's the biblical principle. And this is not good. I'm not defending it, but it's the principle where the father in the household, his sins are. That's why it's so darn serious. But yeah, this is awful and severe. Worse is death, but yeah, this is pretty severe. He's making an example out of him, I guess. This is bad.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
And so why would you worship this God then? Why wouldn't you just say, hey, this God sounds like fiction to me?
Yeah.
Well, not fiction, but he takes sin very seriously, and you're not just going to mess up your own life; you're going to mess up other people's lives. You need to, as men, at the very least, shape up.
But is it just to punish people for the crimes they didn't commit?
Like babies dying. I don't like that, but from your point of view, the baby's done. From God's point of view, the baby is moved on.
What about the women? Is it ever just to punish women for the crimes of their husband?
I don't think it's desirable at all. No, I don't like it.
It can't be just, though, right?
I didn't know that they got raped.
Yeah, that's against the definition of justice, isn't it?
I can't defend it. If they were raped, this is the first time I've ever heard that, Justin, is that they were taken away and raped. Were they taken as wives, or were they
1 Samuel
literally
6,
raped in public?
2 Samuel 16, Absalom tries to take over the throne and chases his father out of the palace. And then he takes a counsel from a traitor of David's court, Ahithophel. And Ahithophel tells Absalom, the thing you need to do now that you're in the palace, the thing that you need to do to show the people that you're in charge, you need to go take David's wives that got left behind, and you need to sleep with them on top of the palace in front of all the Israelites so they know that you're in charge now. And he did. He went into the palace, took 10 of David's wives, put up a tent on top of the palace and slept with them in front of all of Israel in order to give a display of power and force over his father.
So his own son is doing this, and now there's something on the son as well and the guy giving him crappy advice. So there's a lot of people involved in this shite show here. That's
a rough
awful.
one.
Yeah.
Right. It's also weird to me that like the omnibenevolent being like couldn't utter a couple of sentences just saying like owning slaves is bad, and rather he said the other thing.
True.
He said these are the slaves you can own. This is how long you can own them for, and this is how you can treat them.
So
I'm more of a no slaves guy myself.
No. I mean, the Bible never says don't own slaves.
Not once.
You have to do like some serious like mental gymnastics to get to the idea that it does.
Right.
No, there's 2 lines later where it says if somebody kidnaps somebody, makes them a slave, then that person should be put to death. That's 2 lines right after what you were quoting.
Well, I didn't quote anything yet. I was looking at Leviticus 25. You're quoting Exodus 21:16. And this is clarified in Deuteronomy. It's about kidnapping a free person, a free Hebrew person, and selling them as a slave. Mm-hmm. That's not to be done. But there's other than that, you can own slaves. No, it doesn't say don't do slaves. Don't do kidnapping of free people. And you can kidnap foreigners, so you're allowed to do that.
Yeah. Also, even if you grant like this like weird like niche interpretation that's like definitely wrong, it's still going to be the case that there are slaves, because it outlines in Exodus 21 that you can sell your daughter into slavery. That wouldn't require kidnapping at all.
Yeah.
Exodus 21 do that today too. That's not good. No.
Right. So why would God
had said it, we wouldn't be doing it?
No, what I'm saying is if God is real, the God of this book is real, I would expect that he would know that you shouldn't sell your daughter as a slave.
Well, how is it that people read the Bible, slave owners in the past, I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but they would use it and tell their slaves, hey, look, it says here in the Bible, you gotta listen to me, I'm your slave owner. And you got other people who read the Bible and they're like, man, slavery is wrong, we're all created equal. And then they do the Underground Railroad. They're all reading the same Bible. What's going on there?
Well, the Bible doesn't actually say what the people wanted to say. The people that are abolitionists couldn't really appeal to what the text actually said. They had to like look at certain passages sideways, like this idea that like, people are all created equal. Well, yeah, that's like you can get that implied from a couple different passages in the Bible, but that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you could own people. Because the God of the Bible, if you think that the God of the Bible is saying that all people are created equal, that's completely different on whether or not people can own people. He tells you outright you can own people.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that this is a
I
great
think it
example of the
follows.
Bible being like a Rorschach test. You know, you'll project onto it what you want to get out of it.
So the people that read the Bible and said, well, we shouldn't do slavery, like the guy that wrote the song Amazing Grace was a captain of a ship carrying slaves back and forth. He read the Bible and then he said, I'm not doing this anymore. And he became a Christian. He misinterpreted the Bible, but the people that were using the Bible to beat down slaves and tell them to get in line, they were correctly interpreting the Bible.
Actually, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
There's not a single sentence of the Bible that says don't own slaves. Not a single one. In fact, God blessed Abraham with
No, the one that
slaves
we
born
just went
in his
over.
household.
Well, I thought we just went over the one. If you get a free person and make them a slave, then you're going to be put to death. I thought we just did that.
But that
So it does have
kidnapping a free
some
Hebrew is not the
regulations on it.
same thing as owning slaves, right? Like there's about a dozen ways you can become a slave. Kidnapping a free person of your own kin is not one of those ways that you're allowed to do it. But I mean, you are allowed to kidnap people from other countries. Like Deuteronomy 20 says, when you go to war against a town, offer terms of peace. If it accepts your terms of peace and surrenders to you, then all the people in it will serve you as forced labor. But if it does not accept your terms of peace and makes war against you, then you will besiege it. And when the Lord your God gives it into your hand, you shall put all of its males to the sword. You may, however, take as your plunder the women, the children, the livestock, and everything else in the town, all of its spoil. You may enjoy the spoil of your enemies, which the Lord your God has given you. And so these are people that are going to be taken as either slaves or concubines. And this is like, God's cool with it. God even predicts in Isaiah 14 that the Israelites are going to make slaves of people. Says of the nations you will take them and bring them they will take you to their place, and the house of Israel will possess the nations as male and female slaves in the Lord's land. They will take captive those who were their captors and rule over those who oppress them. So like there's all these passages where God is like legitimately glorifying Israel taking slaves of other people. He just doesn't want his people to be slaves.
Yeah, I mean, he got his people out of feet. It took him 400 years before he did it. Why are we not doing it now? Why would that not be the common practice? Why aren't people stoning people? What have Christians lost in the translation of the Bible?
Well, I think society has just moved on, and we've decided that these parts of the Bible are outdated and no longer needed, and so Christians just ignore that.
Or was it a sign of the times as far as it was survival back then?
Well, I mean, the sign of time, I think, is irrelevant to me. Like we're talking about a book that comes from a God that's outside of time, outside of man-made morals, right? What I would expect is that when I read this book, I don't find morals that are indicative of people living at that time period. I would find morals that would be way better than people living at that time period.
Yeah, I feel like I should see like advanced positions in philosophy, like ones that we haven't even discovered yet, not ones that we left behind 2,000 years ago.
Right.
To love your
Or
enemy.
I suppose like more so
enough.
like 200 years ago. In fact, I don't know, like our morals advance, and with the advancement of our morals, we have like firmer ground, I suppose is how I'd put it. Like our morals advance in almost like a scientific like way where you go towards like truer and more accurate ones over time. Which is why it's weird that the Bible features morals that we have moved past.
I disagree with that. I mean, we've got more human trafficking and slavery across the world, if you include human trafficking, than there's ever been. And there's wars going on and people are just getting killed. I mean, I don't know where our advancement in morals is.
Yeah, but that's bad.
Maybe here in the United States.
Right. Like all that stuff is like really bad.
Right.
It's not if you're in a cartel and you're making a lot of money off of human trafficking, then it's very good. Business is
No, it's
good.
still bad.
So, I mean, it all depends on your point of view.
No, it's still bad.
It depends on your point of view.
No,
I don't think everybody's in agreement on morals is what I'm trying to say.
Profiting on somebody else's expense is bad.
That's not true at all. The cartels disagree with you. That's what they
say
do.
that they're wrong.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, they're obviously wrong. So are you suggesting that it is okay to own slaves then?
No, I'm suggesting that
so you
Bible
believe
is
the
a rough
cartels
spot,
are wrong
and you're trying to
too?
use that as an out.
So
I'm sorry, what's that?
Do you disagree or agree with the cartels?
Yeah, I disagree with the cartels.
Yeah, we do too. Yeah. And we disagree because making people suffer for your own gain is bad.
But I think the real question, do you agree or
You're in the
disagree with
minority on
God?
this one. I mean, slavery, human trafficking, and I'm just going to use that as the example everybody's familiar with, is very profitable. And if you don't have any morals, they're a fantastic way to make money, so easy. So, selling drugs, all those things. I mean, to say that we're advancing in morals is not true in human history. People will do whatever is expedient. Not everybody, but enough of them where you've got giant problems and wars. I don't see this great moral advancement going on. And maybe you weren't trying to make that.
I do.
It used to be universal is the thing, right? Like this, like pro slavery, pro genocide ethos used to be extremely commonplace. And in a lot of places it still is, but there's some places where these sorts of actions have become frowned upon. We have advanced philosophically and societally past the point where it's acceptable to do things like this. I think that's indicative of a real advancement, even if it's not universal.
Yeah, I don't see it globally happening. Even in the United States, there's.
Nobody
I don't
said
think
that the entire globe shared the same. We are, as a global society, yes. The types of things that we did as a global society 2,000 years ago is very different than what we do now. That doesn't mean that there aren't still pockets that are living on, this, we're going to call it the old system. Sure, there are going to be pockets, but society at large has moved beyond these things. Like the idea that, for example, we should be engaging in blood feuds because we are doing tribal warfare. We don't do that anymore. Like if somebody comes over and executes a member of my family, I don't then get to go and pick one or two people in their family to execute. I don't get to do blood feuds anymore. But there was a time when that was common.
Well, that's exactly what's done in Africa and China and Russia and the cartels, I guess South America as well. I mean, we're in the minority here and shrinking.
No, we're not.
Yeah. Also,
okay. Well, I mean, I would like to agree with you. I'd like to hope you're right, but I just that's not how it works. People are going to do what makes them money, and the bullies are going to rule the world, and people stand up to it, whatever. But
the problem is the stuff in the book justifies it, right? If in 1st or 2nd Samuel chapter 21, God justifies blood feud.
And Justin, you would know this better than I would, but the whole point of the Mosaic law, Moses' law, is that he made a promise to Moses that his bloodline was going to go through his people. And then he's got it's like herding cats. These guys they're rebellious. They're making golden calves every time you turn around and try and give them 10 commandments. And he's getting them through this. And they're doing a lot of stuff he doesn't appreciate, like having slaves. Something that I never hear you guys bring up is, hey, what's wrong with having a bunch of wives like David? You got a problem with that? Because you got a problem with slavery. Why don't the guys ever say, hey, there should only be one wife? I never hear that.
Probably consent.
Or are you pro?
I don't know. I think that, I don't have any issue with people who want to be in like a polyamorous relationship. If you want to form your polycule with as many consenting wives as you have, sounds good. Go for it, as long as everyone's consenting.
You future Mormon, sir. Justin, how about you?
I don't have a problem.
Wives as possible?
I don't see polygamy in general being like a moral issue, as long as all the parties are consenting. The problem I have is that polygamy, especially in religion, like the Bible, only goes one way. You never find like a woman with multiple husbands. It's always a husband that has all these wives and they get treated like their property, right? But in the modern society, when we talk about polygamy, we wouldn't be accepting these biblical types. We'd be accepting, consenting adults that have the ability to consent. They weren't coerced, they weren't forced into it, and all of them have an equal say in how things play out. But to me personally, I would not want to be in a polygamous relationship, but that's my personal preference.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, it always turns into the guy wants multiple women and whatnot. It's never the women want multiple guys just because they have a lower sex drive.
That's not true.
Biological.
This is you're clearly not like someone who's like a millennial or Gen Z, because I feel like it's like pretty common that it goes the other way around. I don't know, like of the polycules that I'm familiar with, the polyamorous relationships that I've encountered, it very often also is just the opposite, where it's like one girl, two guys, or something of that sort. I don't know. I guess that just hasn't been my experience.
Yeah, but listen, Mike, we appreciate you coming talking with us. We've got time for like one more caller, and but thanks for coming and chatting with us again.